as the soul having a contract and just choosing the family, choosing the life it's going to incarnate into. But we don't know that during our traumatic childhoods and don't find it out until 40 or 50 years on. How does that change our experience? It changes our experience because it changes the story that we tell ourselves about purpose, meaning, why things have happened, who we are. The story changes. Trauma isn't about what happens to us. It's about how we hold it within ourselves and how it's affected us internally. It's not about what happens to us. If it were about what happens to us, there would be no hope. There would be no healing from trauma. But we can change the story of trauma, and we can give it significance. For instance, with that idea of the soul contract. That's not something that speaks to me, but I know that it helps a lot of people. Terrific. I mean, we live by stories. Stories aren't the ultimate truth, but they're how we navigate the world. They're how we move through the world. Story is like the body. The body isn't the ultimate truth, but we need it to navigate through the world. The same thing with story. And story has a great purpose if we use it to positive ends. And that kind of a story can help enormously in giving reason and purpose to something that otherwise seems like meaningless suffering. It's all about how you're holding it in the present moment. So it doesn't matter if you're 50 or 60 or 70 when you find this out, you can shift the narrative and how you frame what's happened to you and how you see yourself as a victim or not a victim. Just think of that. I mean, all of a sudden you're not a victim because your soul has chosen this suffering. That completely turns the picture around, doesn't it? That can be very, very healing. It doesn't change what happened to you, but it changes how you're holding it. Thank you very much. That's a great question. How do we maintain a positive attitude without going into denial? And that's a great question. It's a very complicated question for a lot of people in the New Age movement. Things like affirmations and positive thinking. There's a kind of tyranny of positive thinking. The idea that you've got to keep up with those cheerful thoughts or your life's going to fall apart. But that's based on the idea that you're creating reality at every moment, or that you're manifesting what's happening in your life at every moment, which of course we're not. It's a dance with life. But if you have this idea that your thoughts are so powerful that you are solely responsible for what happens to you, then there's a great pressure to think positively and do those affirmations. But in my experience, affirmations can actually be very disassociating. If what you're feeling is pain, and you're looking in the mirror and saying, I'm very happy and I'm beautiful and everything is perfect in my life, what does that do? It denies the truth of your feelings. This is about telling the truth. If spirituality is about anything, it's about being truthful. Philosophy, the love of truth. How can we sit and lie to ourselves if we're suffering and telling ourselves, how beautiful and perfect everything is? So that there is a tyranny of positive thinking, especially in the New Age movement, that doesn't help people. A lot of New Age folks want to sort of leap into the light, when the fact is that it's in the darkness that we grow. That's where our depth comes from. That's where creativity germinates. To try to skip over the darkness and the pain, the wounds, is to miss the depths of your own life. It's to miss your own deep waters. And there's a terrible loss in that. Without the shadow, there is no light. They have to go together, yin and yang. This isn't an original concept. But a lot of folks just want yin. They don't want yang. And that leads to that can lead to a very unbalanced life. I would rather be truthfully unhappy than dishonestly cheerful. I think there's more authentic energy in that than in keeping up a smiley face and feeling bitter or hurt or unseen inside. Do you know what I'm saying? About going through an illness, right? And realizing that you had always felt invisible, yes. And wanting to bring yourself into the light, bring yourself into being. What's interesting to me is that you did that by becoming visible to yourself.
First.
But did you find that once you had seen yourself, that you craved other people's attention less? Right.
Oh, well, no, I think I had to go through another process, another 20 years on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a long-term journey.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah. That's
I
great.
feel that more like that now. Yes.
Where you don't crave it as
Yeah.
much. You don't crave attention as much.
I'm okay myself.
Right, because you're giving yourself the attention that you need.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Questions, please.
Yeah, just